spell on it.
Well, be thick about raining or snowing when people's ballistic.
East Wash is like that too. I don't get it.
There's something on that one.
I work on West Side.
I started West Side in February.
It's not very much fun. My job, so.
All right, we'll call the October 1st Plan Commission to order. We have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4 is public appearances, public's opportunity to speak about any subject not specific agenda item. So we're moving on there. Item 5 is discuss and consider the minutes from the Plan Commission from September 11th.
Motion to approve the minutes is presented.
Okay. The motion, is there a
Second.
motion and a second? Any discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Item 6 is discuss and consider a request from Craig Frank for the approval of position implement plan for the Cottage Grove Commons, a mixed-use plan unit development to be located on a portion of parcel number 0711-042-9501-9 on the southwest corner of Highway N and Gaston Road. All right.
Hi.
Craig?
Corey Frank here, I'm sure you all know us by now. Corey Frank, Mike Hawkins, and we are here, of course, looking to obtain the PIP approval for the project. Made some revisions, mainly to the site plan, and a few refinements as far as the buildings themselves, and we have samples and so forth that we can go over with you and get a better gauge of the color scheme that we're proposing. And I think just generally speaking, we I think have made some strong progress as far as the site plan. Feel a lot more comfortable with where we're at right now from where we began, that's for sure. And additionally, inside the mixed-use building, we're able to add 30-some stalls, so that allowed, of course, the exterior as far as the parking lots to be reduced, and just in general allowed for a stronger project there. So I think Mike can go through with you right now the changes that we've had, and Corey will put on the presentation again for the architectural, and we're here for questions.
I think I think Aaron did a real good job of summarizing the changes in the packet that we had reviewed, and I'll just touch on those quickly by pointing to them. One of the items was due to the increase in parking within the structure, this grade change that we were dealing with, and the fire truck turnaround, emergency vehicle turnaround, we were able to minimize or reduce some of the surface parking. We did need to add a little bit of pavement to provide 22 foot of width, so if somebody's looking to turn at the end of the nose of the island, there's room to get out and around. In that location, we added the right decel line or lane that Mike Maloney and MSA was requesting be added, and also looked at, rather than a big grade change here down to that additional parking to offset with the shortage on this end. This is a at-grade location, which with 12 parking stalls, for an outdoor amenity area in this location. It could be dual purpose for people that wanted to utilize that. And it also, as we'll show after we flip through a screen here, it provides us that opportunity to get the fire trucks turned around on the end of the road. Two major things that took place, which kind of drove some of these decisions that we made, were the amount of earthwork, imported fill material that was needed for the site was pretty significant, and when we were coming up with the costs associated with the meeting the stormwater requirements, it was getting pretty significant and kind of out of whack. So we looked at, okay, what if we did this flood storage stuff? Can we get it down to the south side? Craig purchased some more property down here, and we're able to accomplish, other than the parking lot, the roof water and everything else, we can get down here and treat it in a wet detention basin just like we normally would. We still have some significant costs associated with the infiltration that's taking place with some underground storage, but wrestling with those two high dollar value items, I think we've come to a better site plan from the standpoint of from an earthwork and stormwater management. When I flip to the next slides, the emergency vehicle access, this is the Gaston Road coming in, showing the fire truck coming through the parking lot, and the radius is around the Noah's Island will work fine. And then on the other end, at the end of Windsor Avenue, the truck can pull into that parking lot with the hammer and utilize that. And there's also a small hammerhead on the end for regular cars to be turning around. But from an emergency vehicle standpoint, this parking lot allowed us to have a dual purpose for satisfying the parking. And we have sent this information, and I think Aaron did. We've reached out to the chief, and I don't know if Brian in our office got feedback, but I think we're pretty comfortable we can find a solution if there's still a hanging point of anything we're proposing at this time. So. With that, I see Kyle has his brewer shirt on, so I'm not going to take any more time.
Corey, if you'd like to.
So just a couple of changes to the mixed-use building. Really the main being we added additional parking as he mentioned, roughly 30 stalls, bringing it to 213 parking stalls in the interior of this mixed-use building. That in itself satisfies the parking requirements for the building. And then we have an additional 54 stalls on the exterior as well. So what we did here is between the third and fourth level, we had an extra leg of double-sided parking, and then we have the north side capped off to be utilized for common amenity. Elevations, we got fine-tuned with our materials and colors. So here again is the west side where the garage entrance is. We brought we have our printouts there obviously, and brought the actual materials as well, because sometimes even from on the TV screen to the board here you see a difference, but we brought the materials as well just so you can see what the exact colors will be. And here we have the north elevation with the main entrance to the mixed-use building here. And then back to our east side commercial. Not coming quite through on this TV, but you can see on this board here, the bottom there is our brick, and colors with the high resolution on this aren't quite coming through on this screen, but that's why we brought these full-size printouts.
Anywhere near the color of the brick there, so it will be this cream color versus whatever that is there.
And these on the board here should be real close to the actual colors, and then if you want to take a close-up look to the actual material, we brought that as well.
And just generally speaking, going on the colors, it's to where there was a comment in the GDP with the council as far as the color scheme that we had at the time, maybe a little too contrasting and not fitting as well into what eventually evolves into a residential area. And so we took that comment and we did change our color scheme to an extent. We went with, while again, it's not real easy to see that color, but the main color that we have in the building is this blue. So it will be a little lighter in this, but still gives us this rich appearance as far as the overall concept of the building. So feeling quite comfortable with that at this point. And the additional item that was brought up is the privacy fences between the units. And instead of the color that we had before, we went with, it's actually an iron gray it is, so it isn't a true black, but this is the color of the privacy fences. So it really came around, I think, in the end when all was said and done there. And we can talk about the how the 8 units blend with it. Corey, if I'll go here further and and these are just samples of what we just discussed there.
So just to go a little more in depth on that, we have our brick obviously, and then the blue siding is hardy plank lap siding, and then the white is Arctic white color flat panel hardy siding, same material as the lap siding, but it comes in 4x8 sheets versus the horizontal lap siding. And then at the deck areas, the accent color would be that iron gray at the deck fascia and also the dividers. Then also with that, it'll have black fiberglass windows, which will really tie into the rest of the color scheme as well.
So, get back to you've seen that before.
So here's some updated renderings of, this would be the east elevation of the 8-unit condo building. So this is on that proposed new street there, directly across from the mixed-use building. So we have our garage entrance there. So the thinking would be with the 4 buildings there, they would alternate between this building and this building. So you would have the blue as the main siding color, and then the they call this nightfall as the siding color for this one here, and then you intermingle in the other colors to really tie it together. We've done that on quite a few projects similar in this, in picking a core of colors and alternating it throughout. And it does a good job of giving variety from one building to the next, but not being completely identical, but still following the same color scheme.
And just to follow up what I was saying earlier, then you start getting a feel for how we're transitioning to the residential component. So these are obviously a true residential looking structure. I mean, from the front of them, of course, they look like a duplex at best. So the other element was with the colors that we have right now, you can see how they blend together quite well. But there are subtle differences that you'll see once they're up, I guess. But now it's to where you can only envision. No, so the other difference is with the brick and stone choices. For the 8-unit buildings, we're going with the stone, which it definitely works with that product. We've used it on those countless times, and it allows for 2 colors that tend to work together too, as far as the mixed use going to the 8-unit buildings. So I think that we should be in good shape on those elements of the project too here. So. Well, I don't believe they would need to get the floor plans at this point. The only other item was, well, actually, this just shows, of course, the same color samples that we had for the 8-unit. The only thing we didn't mention was the shingles the slate gray. Additionally, we, yeah, I don't know if we get that on here quick or not, but we do have a detail for our trash enclosures for the 8-unit buildings. There's some question as to how we'd be addressing that. So what we have here is the trash enclosure, which will be off of the two center 8-unit buildings, will be approximately 10 feet by 20 feet. And the perimeter of it will be our reflection stone, the pure that we have as far as the color sample down below. And then we go with the steel frame gate with cedar lattice on it. So it ultimately looks quite attractive.
And also with that, the trash enclosure is turned to where what you're seeing from the street is the stone versus the gate.
Sure. So I believe that covers it initially here, and open for questions, of course. And
I wonder if we want to have Aaron go first, and then we have somebody in the audience too.
Sure. So we recommend approval of the PIP with some of the conditions in the staff report, maybe tweaking a couple of these based on the material here tonight. The first one carried over from last time, just any signage on the project is going to need a sign permit through the separate sign review process. Secondly, the village agrees to certain variations as part of the planned unit development process, including the density, the building height, and the number of units in the building. In the next few, there's a few drawings that are going to have to get caught up with some of the changes prompted by the stormwater. So just providing the final landscaping plan, photometric plan, building plans just for the purpose of verifying the parking. Not that we don't believe you, we just want to have it for the record. One recommendation we got from the Houstons who own the quarry next door, they suggested that you guys use a disclosure letter for people who buy the condos, just so that everybody's aware that, yes, that's an active quarry and it's going to be going forward. So if we can just get a draft of that. I think you're already working with MSA on all the plans and revisions, the site plans for them to review. Number 8, for the exterior materials and elevations, I had referenced the general development plan. I think we want to change that to reference the materials that you brought here tonight and the elevations that you tweaked. Number 9 was the diagram showing the turning radii for the emergency vehicles. We can take that out. You had that here. 10, just providing street lights and street trees on North Windsor as required by the subdivision ordinance. And then I would add an 11th, just kind of a reminder that this is contingent on the comp plan approval, calling this out as a mixed-use area.
So, that last one, we have to approve the comprehensive plan. So to explain that process real quick.
So we're having the public hearing on the 21st with you guys and the board. It can be approved right after that. That's usually what happens after it's been discussed. Any changes that need to be made are usually part of a condition of approval. That would officially make this area a mixed-use area, and this project would then be compliant with the draft as we've been discussing.
We had one person in the public, David Morrow. Did you want to speak, David, or did you want to?
Let's figure out if my comments are premature. Mine relate to traffic, so I don't know if this is the correct forum or the time to bring these.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. So, you know, the vast majority of my traffic is peak, you know, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the morning. And most of my egress traffic is a left turn onto, you know, onto Gaston and then on to N, and they're headed north or headed south from there. So I have some natural concerns already because that, you know, my cut through that I had in that median, I think that was a heck of a concession by the county years ago when they first agreed to that. So it's pretty close to the control point anyway, the lights. That tends to load pretty heavily anyway. And so with this amount of traffic coming out, I'm wondering, you know, I have a mild concern. I'm generally in favor of this project. I think it's a great project. I just want to address the concerns of traffic loading at that control point and what that might mean in terms of a medium to longer term impact to my business if people become frustrated. They, you know these places where, oh gosh, I can never make a left turn. I can never get out of there. And that's kind of a culture that takes a little while to develop, but it can, there's enough studies out there, I'm sure, that demonstrate adverse effects on businesses. So I wouldn't want to speak against this project in any way. I would just want to ask that we can address those concerns, whether or not that's a traffic study or whatever.
Can I make a comment?
You can make a comment.
Your time frame of 6 to 8, I think.
That's pretty heavy for us, yeah. 6 to 8.
Yeah, and I think the uses in the parking lot that would be utilizing this entrance, you know, with the left turn into it and or the right turn coming back out to get to N.
Yeah.
The users are anticipated to be more of a realty type company, so the use would probably be after the 8 o'clock more than likely from the standpoint of traffic for commercial development there.
Sure.
I don't anticipate, I guess you can speak to what people that you've been talking to or what you envision for that commercial, but I know that in prior meetings, that was one of the uses and or professional service type firms.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I'm speaking more about the residential traffic because we're all getting up and going to work at the same time.
Okay.
And so I know there's a lead off directly onto N, it seems, heading south, right? You can.
No, you can. All the vehicles from here need to come out to this street and go that direction, so.
Okay.
So yeah,
All 105 units that take access off this public street and off of this intersection, which then, yes, people would need to sit here if there's a constant stream of traffic waiting for that.
Yeah, that addresses my exact concern. And I'm wondering about whether that's how a traffic study would then adjust the timing of the lights or something like that to allow egress.
At the prior meeting, the traffic was addressed at the village board level by the village engineer, and he had commented that the intersection design incorporated development of this site into the projections, the exact numbers, and I think that study's been done already, but providing that information might be a good idea.
Sure.
Of what this site had projected versus what is being proposed to be approved. Is there a difference, and how's that affect the intersection?
Right.
I think Mike probably can help us with that information.
Yeah.
My observations are only anecdotal, but you know, I would say at very peak moments, that left turn lane heading north on N loads pretty heavy. Sometimes it includes our egress.
And certainly the timing of the lights could be tweaked too,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
need
sure.
be.
Maybe some kind of signage, don't block the driveway, like, don't block the median.
I think there's a lot of clever ways to handle it.
Well, and our entry now too is to the west further versus initially how it was directly adjacent.
I saw that in there.
So we felt that would also address the overall concern that we may have at that point there, so.
The other thing is that Wilson Street will eventually go through. Yeah, that'll go through and that'll be feeding out into another traffic light. So these residents may end up taking a left out of there and heading down to that light to get out.
Does anyone have a thumb in the air time estimate on that? Or is that so far in the future that we we can't really table that as a discussion.
I have a feeling this might be a catalyst for that,
Okay.
but we don't know.
Yeah, it's the same piece of property that
Yeah.
this project is on, the remainder of it, remains for sale.
Yeah.
I know there's people looking at it, so.
I would just want to be able to meet periodically and tweak lights and things like that if we can do it. I think my concerns don't amount to speaking negatively against the project.
So Aaron, for process around, that's a good point. I mean, just in any location in general, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be planning commission, it's gonna be public works and properties, right? I mean, I think that's under their purview, and this is probably limited coordination. You mentioned county, I don't know how much, because the end is a county road-ish, maybe a little further up. That would be really probably the process as things develop. Obviously, here, this is the correct forum as it's a new thing, and we're talking about it as part of a plan. But if anyone has any
I
traffic
think
concerns
changing
moving
lights and
forward,
things like that would be.
that was public works and property. Still through, I mean, obviously, these guys are the contact day-to-day, Matt and Aaron, for sure. I think it's definitely, I know that form is cool for a lot of no parking on this side of the road. I think your sign is an innovative idea, no blocking the road, which is only as good as the people who read it. But at least all of that awareness, I think that's one of the committees I think you probably want to get in touch with too.
Is that whole intersection county transportation in, X distance up Gaston, up the hill, or is that village jurisdiction?
Up Gitch. Yeah, it's,
Gaston is the town.
Part of it's the town, right? Gaston.
The median where my cut through is, that's probably county still, isn't it? Because it's in the county improvement.
it's all village.
And it's not
Next,
county
yeah,
anyway.
yeah, next to it.
Tiff, you built there, right, Tiff? The village had that.
I can usually tell by who's plowing it.
Yeah.
So.
Whose blade you have to fill it up?
It should be village.
Yeah, I think from a process standpoint, this body would get back involved when another piece of property adjacent to this comes in. Certainly, if you're noticing, not just at the public works level, but that's another opportunity to share with this group if there's any frustrations or changes that need to be made with any future development too. So.
Thank you.
Anything else? Or-
No, I think it's a great project. We just want a skywalk that comes off of the So if you could work.
I was going for a zip line, but if you want skywalk.
Zip line is better, yes.
Zip line would have been fun.
Could be a new attraction
It
at the
would-
coffee
it
house.
would be.
Well, you just want them to just go straight out their driveway, right?
Perfect.
Obviously, your risk management person isn't around here, so.
No, but Parks and Rec might be, that'd be a good attraction. Working with the materials, not the brick, but the 4x8 sheets, and have you worked with those before? I'm assuming that's like maybe solid through as far as the color and everything. How durable is that?
So you can, grab these right now. So it'll be the same exact material as this, except in 4x8 sheets. So that's,
Oh, that's all the way
Yeah.
through.
yeah, so it's
That's good stuff.
concrete composite.
Oh,
Grab it
yeah.
right
So-
over the blue one?
Yeah.
That's gonna hold up to anything that's going to throw at it.
Because that has-
Yeah, for the
It's almost
most
like-
part, it's
almost
probably the
like
most
stone.
durable of all surfaces.
Yeah.
Now, all of them are painted, so, in time, there will be some maintenance that has to be done on that product, but that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, the nice thing about this is versus vinyl or different exterior material is, the color you see is paint. So say 10 years down the road, if there's some fading and all, just go in and paint it. So real easy to upkeep and make it look brand new for years.
Hopefully it'll be the 25 years, I say, so.
I would think that
You
the,
broke it.
I would think that the warranty on that's probably like 25 range.
Yeah,
Based
I
on
have-
the feeling that.
I have some over 10 years old and haven't seen any signs of fading. So, typically a 25-year warranty. So, I mean, there are some that are 15 years. So, this product is 25 against.
I guess I have two real quick. So the amenities on the lid of the parking garage, is that
So.
There was questions the last time if you were gonna be able to do it because of the structure.
Yes.
Just to bring closure to that.
And I should, sure, I'm glad you brought that up. To follow up on that, ultimately what we did was we added that ramp area going up to the 4th level. So the initial plan that we were thinking we'd have to go with is strictly 3 levels of parking. And when we started looking at logical ways of assessing how to cap that, it was to where the cost was excessive just to put a lid on that whole area. So we just felt, well, we can go up an additional half level with a ramp and put parking on that. That is then the cap for the 2 levels below, and then I'll just put the cap on the remainder of it. So the remainder of that 4th level is all a cap area, which we'll now be able to utilize as an outdoor amenity. So
So that final ramp, that ramp, like that image right there, so that final ramp is exposed to the sky, and
So
then the other's a cap. Is that right?
this was a work in progress. We just received the final plans a couple days ago. And ultimately what we have then is the ramp here has our parking. So that's where we have our 36 stall we're able to pick up just on that ramp going up. This now is our flat cap for the remainder of the parking underneath. So now that we have that cap, this is at the 4th level. We now will have access to that 4th level for outdoor amenity. And so what we're looking at there is, at a minimum, we'll have a basketball court, but we're also looking into the area for that potentially you need to have a jogging path. We will definitely be able to accommodate outdoor grills and so forth. We'll have a little canopy, a little cover area at this area too. So we'll be able to start bringing in some of those elements that I was hoping to do. In addition to our amenity on the 4th floor there, that was the backup for taking advantage of the view on the 4th floor. So we will now have this, which will be enclosed fully, and we'll also have the area, the outdoor area, on the cap there. So we'll be able to utilize that fully. We'll have some area for gardens up there for the tenants, and just a lot of cool things you can do with that amount of area. So.
Yeah, put it into perspective size-wise, so this top half here where it shows stalls here would be the capped off common area. If we put a track going around it, it would be near an 8-mile track. So this area here is pretty large to where we'd have quite a bit of outdoor amenity for the tenants.
So, just so I'm clear, but it is all covered, the parking is all covered.
So
There's no exposed at the top deck, is that?
this,
That
the ramp going up is the only exposed.
It is exposed.
Yep. Now, the benefit of adding that half level 2 was I wasn't all that comfortable about the access that is, one of the great benefits of this product, directly same level as your unit. And now we have that availability of access. So our 36 stalls here, and they can access that 4th level as far as their units. So, and of course, they have the area underneath them too if they want to cover it. So. Go ahead.
All right, and the other one that I had, I guess it's a little bit of Aaron and then you guys as well. So the 4 condo buildings, the trash collection is only going to be at 2 of them. I mean, does that, I mean, it's not too, so our agreement for trash collection, like, so that's a separate building, it's not gonna fall under jurisdiction of the village, right? Or is it part of their association fee for the dumpsters, and then, really, because the question was like, hey, I'm taking my trash to a different address.
If they're
How does that
dump,
all work? So,
if they're dumpsters, this wouldn't be under our contract. This would be a commercial
your agreement.
pickup. They could
Okay.
have any company pick it up.
Okay.
That's your understanding too, correct?
You bet, that's.
Yeah, so it won't be our bin, it won't be the residential bins.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all. Thank you.
Any questions from any other commission members? Then we'll move on to, so I guess then the question is there a motion then, consideration for the,
Motion to approve the precise implementation plan for the Cottage Grove Commons with the staff recommendations.
Second.
motion second, any further discussion?
Do you think anything should be in there regarding looking into traffic, or do you think it was covered with what was discussed? No question.
I think it's covered.
Okay.
I mean, we're always
It's
gonna have to,
documented and no.
we're gonna have to continue monitoring that
Yeah.
anyway for the Commerce Park because it continues to, as more and more businesses go in there.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for accommodating a special meeting tonight.
Yes, really appreciate that.
Would you order
Still
your
have your
ramp yet?
CSM.
We have number 7 we gotta do.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You still have your CSM.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
You can't buy a hand-
Yeah, I can't have one without the other.
Since in the packet, we'd recommend approval. I don't know if there's a possibility it could get tweaked a little as you.
It
look at
probably will be
engineering.
tweaked a little, yeah.
So I guess with the condition that there could be some minor adjustments to it.
Mainly to the stormwater outlet,
Yeah.
sideways.
Any comments, questions about that?
I'll make a motion to approve the request from Craig Frank for approval of the certified survey map to divide the existing parcel into 4 lots and dedicating 0.6 acres to the public for street right-of-way and 1.23 acres as an outlot with any minor adjustments that are needed.
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all's in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstained? Motion carries. All right, good to go.
Yeah, we can. Thanks a lot.
We give all your materials back? No. Darn. You got any other ones floating around?
Nope, I gave mine
away.
Okay. All right, item 8 is discuss the status of the conditional use permit for Forest Brothers Auto located at 212 West Cottage Grove Road.
Yes, we have John and Gerard Ferris here. They own the business. I think a few of you were here when this conditional use permit came through, 2015, but some of you weren't. Basically, the conditional use permit allowed them to operate a vehicle repair business with some limited sales as well. A copy of the village action report from that time was in the packet with the conditions, which included limiting the number of cars for sale on the property to 5, and stating that inoperable or salvage vehicles shall not be stored on site except inoperable vehicles awaiting short-term repair. You guys can come up and kind of explain how you're operating it. I think it's kind of changed a little bit. There's more of a emphasis on buying cars and fixing them and selling them, but
Yep.
what I kind of like to get out of this, and I have a site plan we can take a look at after these guys introduce themselves, but trying to find a more permanent solution that, because we've gotten complaints from the neighbors, that's why we're bringing this up, just the number of cars on the lot and things like that. So something that would allow them to keep operating, but also have it fit into the neighborhood better. So take a look at that.
So I'm Gerard. I'm John. We initially took on the property as a rental. We were just renting one large garage building. Since then, we've purchased the property, and the business has been growing, and this is our first year of actually having employees. Up until this point, it's just been the two of us.
And we bought the property that shares the parking lot with us. So that used to be CG Mowers, and now all of that property is Ferris Auto. So both parcels.
So this year being the first year that we've been growing enough to be able to have employees, sales have increased.
We weren't really considering, when we sell cars, we're like, okay, we can sell 5 cars, and then people trade in their cars. And so then we get more cars. We're planning on having a certain amount of cars, and we've gotten a lot of cars lately on our parking lot.
So it's been a little bit of a battle trying to keep that managed, which we've gotten a hold of a little bit, and I think talking with Aaron about things, about what we could kind of do to the property possibly to tweak things, I think would really help us a lot, kind of manage how we do that. So.
Yeah. Blame that on Frank's. They did that to you.
So this is a plan of the property. This is the existing garage that they work out of.
Aaron CAD, is this?
Yes.
Aaron
Is that
Kazan.
MSC stuff? Okay.
Very high tech. This was the old mower shop over here. Right now, all the vehicles are stored basically out in front here. This area in the back, it's mostly grass and I think some gravel out there. And I think you guys had been using that for some parking, and I think that's probably what got the neighbors kind of.
What happened was the overflow from the trade-ins that a lot of times we didn't know what to do, because people trade in their vehicles that are on their last leg, and like, what do we do with this thing? So, but since then, we've worked at getting those going.
So I think we can go a long way towards kind of solving some of these issues with allowing them to pave a portion of this back area that would fit within the ordinances for the planned business district. Doing a privacy fence with some additional evergreen landscaping around just to block the view of that. And then all this backlog of vehicles or vehicles that are waiting for longer term repairs can be stored out of sight completely. I think I'd also like to see some of the pavement here come out and just put in a landscaped berm to kind of block these buildings, block vehicles that are waiting, for short-term repair, and just kind of highlighting the sales area a little bit more. I think that would make the front a little more attractive. They've already done a little bit of improvement up here, but this used to be all pavement up here. Didn't look so good. They trimmed some of that over.
When we moved in, the blacktop, we've had estimates for a lot of things, but the blacktop was all broken up there, and there were weeds growing up through. And so we've been trying to. We had a concrete guy come in and do some concrete work for us to be able to clean that up and make it look nicer up there.
Do you have easements off the side street to get in? Or is that, the way I look at the parking lot, it looks like it should be there, but is that really a legal entrance as far as like an easement's concerned?
It is, right? Yep.
You share, kind of like you share it with is it the chiropractor there?
Chiropractor on the corner, he got it.
Yeah.
So there's a parking lot right there, you share the parking lot?
The driveway is on their property, but the parking lot is basically on the chiropractor's property.
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Oh, you got it.
There's an easement, I didn't realize, I didn't look at the property map, so I didn't.
I don't know.
Yeah, an easement.
It's a legitimate curb cut.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of this? besides Aaron's fantastic drawing abilities.
I like a lot of aspects. I especially obviously like I'm sorry about that. The parking in the back. John and I have been talking, and we've had contractors come through to try and renovate the office space that we have in the big garage building. Everybody is very, very busy, it seems like, so we haven't really had anybody tie anything down for us. So our thought right now is to actually remove those two buildings and possibly build our sales office in that spot, and where those are, is what our thought is right now. That would, I think, kind of help us, because then we could possibly turn that a little bit and do some adjusting, and obviously come in and get some plans together. Obviously, it's all just ideas right now, so.
How many vehicles do you have there currently?
We have 61 today. We had, when we first moved in, we were allowed roughly 45, give or take, between customer repair work, vehicles that were getting ready for the lot. So we're over by 16-ish in that area. We had a lot more maybe 2 months ago. That's gone down drastically.
I guess the worst thing is there's some that are dismantled pretty far where it ends up kind of looking like a junkyard
Yeah.
versus cars just being parked.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If those can go disappear somewhere, it would be really nice.
Yeah, and most of those we have one left in the back that was supposed to go today. With the rain, it didn't get out, so hopefully tomorrow.
So do you generally repair the trade-ins, or do you just?
Sometimes.
bring the middleman?
Depending on how bad they are, how many miles they have.
Yeah, so some of the trade-ins get repaired, and then some of them end up going off to auction, and then we have to wait on the auction house to be able to
Yeah.
get the vehicle to take over. So the paved area that Aaron had, suggested would be great for that too, because then we could put those back there right away and just wait for the auction.
And it's amazing how many emergencies we have. Today, there was a truck that the guy drove in. There's something not right with it, and now an axle just blew out, so he couldn't drive it home today. So now it's in our parking
He
lot.
stayed at our place. He came from out of town. He was there for 4 hours. Went over to the coffee shop
And he drove from New Glarus for us specifically, but now his truck is in the middle of our parking lot, which it's a bummer. And that stuff happens all the time for us. People are in need of repair. They can't afford an expensive place, so they come to us and break down the parking lot.
Do we have to worry about drainage with the paving? I mean, we just talked about a lot of storm runoff and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, we're not approving anything tonight, we're just gonna see
Yeah,
if this is the right
yeah.
direction, then when they have a
see
formal
it.
site plan, and the city will take.
Okay. I think, parking is always important. Like, there's ADA compliance and all that other stuff, and having lots of cars doesn't welcome, unless you have somebody who walks, or because I need a car, come into your sales area. It's a little intimidating with full lots, so.
I think actually striping these up in front. Is replacing these something you're thinking for next year?
Next year, we'd like to.
So what's the short-term solution to the non-compliance then right now?
I think counting the extra cars and getting them out of there
Yep.
until we can get something like this built.
Each day we're trying to work toward that. So right now, our service schedule, and this is local people that we're doing service work for, people from the Madison area, we're booked up until November. So, and it's just 2 mechanics, it's me and one other guy in the back doing the work, and so we're working hard trying to get to the point of being compliant with the numbers and where we should be.
Could you guys see a phased approach perhaps, where you maybe do the back sooner rather than later, then that gets rid of some of the
I guess it'd
traffic?
be nice to see the fence, and I know when we had the repo people, we let them have recycled blacktop, which was impervious, so, if it's fenced in, we're not seeing it. I don't know, Aaron, if that's something you'd think about on a short-term solution, something that would be more affordable right now, at least, and it would be screened by the fencing, but yet it would get those excess vehicles out, and that's kind of what was done. That's behind the Buckley Building in the business park by Hydra.
The way the ordinance is written, I think JJ, as our Public Works Director, would have to sign off on anything that's not official pavement. But I think that came up with the rugby club. They wanted to-
Because it's two things, conceal it, right, so approvals for concealment, and then it's also approvals to change the allowed number, right, and then it's hidden, and we're like, hey, this is properly disposition. I mean, I think it's, I mean, first of all, your story's fascinating, from the Patrick Grove, rent, now you own, then you bought the land next to you, now you're like, we're gonna knock this building down and build a new office, I think it's fantastic. It's also good to be ahead of the curve too, you know, and do what you're doing when you're talking about it, so.
I just don't want it looks like, this cost can snowball pretty quick
Yeah.
on this, and then all of a sudden, it's not gonna happen.
Yep.
So if there's something we can do, like we were talking with phasing,
Yeah.
and I'd like to see something perhaps work out that way, a decent fence and.
Two versions, maybe one with just the fence and the parking, and then
Yep, okay.
a second.
I'm sure the neighbors would appreciate it.
Yeah. What approvals, other than that, I mean, obviously we would have to change the limit.
The
That would
site
be another-
plan,
but this-
and
But just to throw the fence down in the parking lot, what's their approval process for that?
Be a site plan review here and at the board, and then if we are adjusting the number of cars or anything related to the conditional use permit, then it would be an amendment to that, and that would have a public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, the sooner you get in front of this, I mean, honestly, the neighbors complaining is gonna be a problem, right? We see with all the projects, the neighbors show up, there's something's going on, and it's important to them because it's where they live. You know, it affects my house, affects my value, my kids walk by, whatever it is that is their concern is valid for them. And the sooner you can get in front of it, so if you're over the number right now, park the car straight, make it look neat, pick everything up, don't leave it out, you know what I mean? You're gonna have to do those extra things until you can get the phased approach.
Okay.
Just right,
Okay.
get bushes in a pot.
I would guess the neighbors don't care how many cars are back there if they can't see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not a numbers thing, it's an
So,
aesthetic.
just to be clear, we're talking a privacy fence, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yep.
It's one of those invisible. Yeah, for you it's invisible fence. We don't want you jumping
Do we
over.
know
it.
that?
Let the cars get out.
I thought I heard that, but I wasn't 100% sure. I'm like,
Yeah.
We just
Yep.
put a fence up, what is that gonna do?
Right.
Have you had any problems with damage, like people coming in and damaging your vehicles or anything?
No.
That's good.
Once in a while, middle school kids will walk through, and sometimes adults will cut through if they live back there. So it'll be nice to have a fence area.
Probably good for everyone, nobody gets hurt back there.
But as far as we know, nothing's been stolen, or, it's amazing, actually, to have that much out there just for people to grab if they wanted to.
They're looking for
It's crazy.
Well, that's good to get ahead of that too.
Yeah.
Just in
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
So do you think a fence is something that you guys could at least do this year?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
could,
yeah, and that's something that we can get together with you, and you can kind of walk us through who we have to talk to do all that, or?
Yeah. If someone at the fencing company can draw something up for you that's dimension that you can come back in with. So we'll have to think about, are you paving this or doing something more liquid? Say with recycled materials.
The clock's ticking on the paving thing. It gets to be October, and they
Yeah.
kind of like to be
They shut
done.
down by Thanksgiving.
A lot of,
Well done
yeah,
now.
that's, they've been stretching it further, but that's kind of a guideline, is Thanksgiving. Is
Hunting season.
Hunting season. It always was. The day before deer hunting was the last day of paving.
Yeah, have your fencing company look at this. I know Aaron's billable hours can be very pricey. Aaron is good, but,
Great.
Thanks for being on top of it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to us.
And you can put that drawing up in you can put that drawing up in your office
It'll be
probably.
worth thousands.
make sure you autograph it.
Just put it on the fridge.
Thanks for coloring the lines there.
I like that picture.
Thank you.
Whatever you learn in kindergarten. you can-
Whose phone is that, by the way?
Yes, I think it was that couple that was up here.
The-
Oh,
Oh, no. Dave.
There they are. You don't get far.
Yep.
Here he comes. He's coming that way, Aaron.
Speaking of the baseball game, I'm recording it, so don't look at me weird or don't say anything. I don't want to know anything.
Oh, my God.
We'll see ya. See you in the morning, Dave. Coffee with cop.
All right, so Aaron, I thank you for kind of initiating that. Obviously, we had some concerns from folks. You and I talked about that.
They wanted us to yell at them and run them out of town, they're doing it.
No, I think that was a very good approach.
Those are great ideas, too. So I appreciate it.
I just think if we wait until they start looking at the cost of buildings and even pavement and all that
That's why I said
initially.
phased approach. Let's get
Yep.
the eyesore taken care of first.
And we have to be proactive, because at the end of the day, it is an approved conditional use that's not being followed, so
Yep.
anyone that complains is a valid complaint.
Yes.
So,
Are they in
Yeah.
a TED? Is that a TED?
yes, yeah.
All right, item 9 is future agenda items.
No meeting on the 9th. Regular meeting, not happening.
It's like a no school.
9th, not meeting then. But we do need at least 4 of you, I guess, here on October 21st for that joint meeting, preferably all of you.
I'll be here.
No meeting on the night?
No.
Oh, sweet. Okay, so that's.
What time is that meeting on the 21st?
6:30.
For some reason, I thought it was at 5:30.
That's the combined plan and, planning commission and village board.
Yeah.
Which means we haven't heard back from our friends down in Commerce Park then. Anything? As far as I can tell.
No, we have, but they're not ready,
They're not ready.
it needs to be, there's a public hearing involved, so it's not just a submittal, but we have to publish it for 2 weeks in the paper, so, it's at least November, yeah,
Good to know.
yeah.
All right.
For number 10.
I am waiting for number 10.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second, non-debatable, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
I was just gonna tell you, Yelich is coming back.
Yeah,
He is.
well, he's there.
It's all over the news. He's gonna play in the World Series if they make it.
With a brace on.
No, they just announced it.
Yeah,
Really?
They said they'll get there